Number 107.
And before the court starts, it has been brought to the court's attention that during adjournments, the counsel for the defense and the accused are being crowded by photographers. That makes their work difficult. It leaves the possibility, it compromises their communications. The idea was that photographers may photograph the accused 10 minutes before court starts in the morning. And for the rest of the day, please leave counsel, the accused, counsel and the... Do not refrain from photographing them through a journal. Certainly.
I've never suggested 1.5 meters away. What I was putting the distance, if you were to throw it, impact on. And all I was one rotation, it impacts. Right, he puts in it, but if he approximate rotation and my client was 4 meters away. I'm simply saying that is those two distances. You with me? Right. Now, we would also know the same force being used, terrain being used, or face takes that for that axe to impact if the axe is facing this way, if I'm, otherwise I'm sorry.
The counsel is holding the axe's handle with the blade, the blunt side of the blade facing the...
To then make half rotation into impact would then surely require any rotation and 3-4 meters when it makes a full rotation. You accept that? That's all I'm saying to you. But we obviously, and that was I was at pains to point out to you, and you've already confirmed it, we don't know the force with which the axe hit the wall, correct? Correct. We don't know how many rotations the axe made, if it was thrown, correct? And we don't know the exact amount of blood was on it, and as you pointed out, one would have to do a vast amount of tests and get all those variables and see what you can find, whether you can recreate what is on the wall, before you can say with any amount of certainty and accuracy answer those variables that we're dealing with now. Correct?
That's correct.
Right. Now, of course, something else as well. Do you have any idea where this fleeing attacker, which my client described, which of course would have been a moving target, exactly was when my client decided to throw the axe? And of course, this would not have been a stationary target. The target would have been moving.
That's correct.
And then, furthermore, I take your point about, well, possibly a better option for my client would have been to try to hit the fleeing attacker. But then, of course, that depends how far away he was from the attacker when he makes such a decision.
That's correct.
And of course, that also presupposes that my client, under those circumstances, took the kind of option that you probably would have taken under the similar circumstances.
That's correct.
And he may not necessarily have taken the best option under those circumstances, given the circumstances he found himself in at that stage on his own version.
Absolutely.
Right. Then I think we can move on. Captain, I want to come to another aspect. There are one or two further aspects that I will still deal with in your first report, but in light of it, but Lord, the witness have asked me to say that we can perhaps adjourn at lunchtime. We will come see you in chambers. He is available for Monday. We can continue on Monday. My only problem is that my expert is not here on Monday, and there's one point I need to finish with my expert still here. Please. That's the reason why I'm going to your second report, Captain. Could I ask you, in the second report, go to your paragraph 17.1. You're dealing with the blood clot that was observed on the knife blade as it was lying partially underneath the bed of Rudy van der Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
And perhaps we can quickly have a look at Annexure K to the blood clot that you referred to, which is part of triple D 2, triple D 2, Annexure K. Excuse me. Do you have it, Captain? Photograph number 49 and 50 shows, actually 49, sorry, I beg your pardon, 49 shows CS5, a clot, a blood clot on the knife, a little black spot.
That's correct, ma'am.
And then when we look at photograph number 50, that blood clot is no longer there, and we can see the knife lying on what appears to be either a duvet or a sheet, and that was while Warrant Officer Hitchcock was busy processing the knife and taking swabs from the handle of the knife and the blade of the knife.
That's correct, ma'am.
And you, in paragraph 71, you say the blood clot on the knife that was observed. Then in photograph 49, on photograph 50, only indicate a white stain where the clot was identified, suggesting when the knife was moved for processing from the floor to the bed, the clot fell off.
That's correct, ma'am.
Now, I just want to show you perhaps a point we can very quickly make. Two photographs with the metadata. Still crime scene photographs that were taken, if I can hand up to you. order this could be marked with the court's leave as triple D 13.
Triple C, triple D, 13, pages 1 and 2.
The first one, you see the photograph that was taken of this knife, in which the plot is still visible, taken at 2:40 p.m. You see it on the left hand side, on the 27th of January 2015, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Then if you turn the next to page 2 thereof, you see that the clock is gone, and that is from a photograph that was taken of the knife on the same day, 27th January 2015 at 4:18 p.m.
That's correct, yes.
Right. Now, in exhibit BB6, if I can ask you to have regard to that as well. Those are the notes of Warrant Officer Hitchcock. Annex to BB6 consists of a number of handwritten notes by Warrant Officer Hitchcock. If I can ask you to go to page 10 thereof. Bottom right hand corner should be number 10. There we actually have the time and date on which the Victorinox knife was processed for possible touch and presumed blood DNA. That's items 39 and 39A, and you'll see there that was only done much later. In fact, on the early morning hours of the 28th of January, at roughly 0036 and 0038.
That's correct, yes.
Right. So, to come back to the statement in 17.1, the blood clot could only have fallen off the knife if the knife was moved.
That's correct, yes.
Now, who moved the knife and for what purpose between the two times that the photographs were taken? Because we now know the knife was not between those two, in the time between that those two photographs were taken. That was not the time that the knife was processed.
That's correct.
And who else would have moved the knife in between those two times?
I don't know.
You do agree with me that it's very clear from the photograph that somebody did move the knife.
Definitely, yes. That's why I mentioned in my statement.
And you would also agree with me that should not have happened.
That's correct.
But then, perhaps more importantly, Captain, I also want to go to paragraph 17.2, and then I'll get on to the one that I need Mr. Stale's assistance with. The spattered blood stains that we see, if I can ask you to go back again to your exhibit Annex K, photographs 49 to 52. Perhaps we can just also get this on record. Warrant Officer Hitchcock told us that he only swabbed the one side of the knife, and there was only certain drops that he swabbed. Is that your recollection as well?
That's correct.
Okay. So we know that the entire knife was not swabbed.
No, no.
And we also know that the blood drops that you identified as drip on the knife was identified, that blood belonged to Rudy van der Daal.
That's correct, no?
You in paragraph 17.2 postulated the possibility that when Rudy van der Daal moved across, his body somewhere moved across and over the knife lying there, because the knife must have been lying there already when this happened, blood emanating from himself must probably dripped onto this knife.
That's correct, no?
All right. Now, the only one thing I want to suggest to you, perhaps I'll come back to that point at some other stage. You obviously will not be able to tell the court exactly at what stage and where exactly the body of Rudy van Breda was when those blood stains dropped on the knife. All you can say, it must have been above the knife.
That's one probability.
Yes, okay. Then in paragraph 17, I want you to turn to paragraph 17.9. These are the pattern transfers that you identified as.
You mentioned one probability. Are there other probabilities?
My lord, the knife is a moving object. So it could have been that the knife during the scuffle, it could have been kicked somewhere else, or it could have been previously actually exposed to blood.
Yes, in fact, that is a very valid remark to make. We simply don't know. It could have happened at some other occasions as well, that those blood stains or those blood drops dropped onto the blade. Correct. I'm very happy with it. Right. The pattern transfers that you observed and documented on, you said was as pleasantly surprised when his lordship's phone then comes. You observed that you termed similarities between the shape of the knife blade and exhibit 138. You came to the conclusion that the transfer pattern was most probably caused by the blood-soaked knife that was on exhibit 138. I'm saying correct? All right. Good. And I'm going to ask you the question outright. Is it possible that those transfers could have been created, or could be explained by fabric faults?
My lord, not in this case. We actually made measurements of the knife as well, and I actually sent away to two different experts as well, Colonel van der Nest and then one Professor Dekker from the Eastern Cape, to also give me an opinion towards, and they both agree that there is similarities, but it's not to say that is the knife that created it. It doesn't show similarities because there is defined edges to it.
I understand that.
And it's not, we'll fold, you will get pieces. And there will be areas where there will be blood and areas where there will be void. So knife blade, or characteristics of a knife.
Your pretension for, and I want to present to the court but we've made hard copies of it being to present as well, and I believe to hand it up to His Lordship and to the witness. That's while Mr. Steyn is setting up the presentation there, I can just perhaps briefly, quickly take you through the experiment that he did. The first paragraph, if we can mark the pages, if I remember correctly, there should be about 9 pages. Beg your pardon, 11 pages. Now, for the first page, Captain, you will see we hold the exhibit triple D14 horizontally like that. I think we're ready now for the PowerPoint presentation. And as Mr. Stone also will demonstrate, the cut-out pieces of Victorinox blade, and he fits it onto the transfer pattern that you saw on the duvet, and then you quite correctly. It actually does fit on that. You're happy with that? Now here and there, slight edges around it, but it shows the similarity that you referred to. Great.
That's good.
Right. If you turn the page, this is just also Victorinox knife. I can tell you, Mr. Stowe will come and testify, he not only bought a similar axe, but he also bought a similar Victorinox knife. So the knife that he utilized in his experiment is exactly the same as the exhibit 2 before court. Then what he also did on page number 3, you'll see that he bought, if I remember correctly, it was a pillow casing that was made of covers exhibit 138 to 139. And you can see that it is shown on page number 3. And the next what he did is he spread the pillow casing open, and he then took some of his own blood. He then decided to coat his arms rather than the knife. It was incredibly difficult to get enough blood to adhere to the knife blade to transfer that much blood. He then was wondering, we know that forearms and then move these on the number of occasions. Go to again page number 8. If you see to the Victorinox blade, and in fact he was able patterns that shows the similarity. Same method when we fitted the blade onto the transfer pattern that you can see that it shows similarities. That, do you agree?
I agree, yes.
And the second one as well, it shows similarities to that. Third one also to a certain extent, not perhaps entirely. Number 4, if we just change the angle slightly of number 4. Shows similarities to that as well. You accept that?
Accept it, yes.
And so as well with the stain number 5. similar transfer patterns or patterns that the Ronix knife and the same material. Now again I have to ask you, can you exclude the possibility, we're not going to do that way in fairness, can you exclude the possibility that what we see and what you on the variable exhibit 138 may not simply have been the result of a blood-covered object like the forearms, perhaps even the body of Lee from Adar, moved across the material, there was a fold in the material and it created this one imprint, this transfer pattern. It's possible. We'll note it, then going to go to a new point and I want to try and finish it. If we don't, then it would appear that we in the also exam, but we can then try and finish this on Monday. It should not last for longer than half a day. Captain, I'm sorry to...
Captain, are you available on Monday?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Are you from Cape Town?
Yes, ma'am.
Captain, if I can then ask you to just return again to your first report, double B1, and ask you to go to paragraph 37. Starts in 11 to 17. This is the part of your report where you made mention of the fact that you're of the view that Rudy van der Daal was dragged or moved from his bed onto the carpet and until he ended up in his final position. You also, I think part of this, if I remember correctly, is the positioning of the duvet that we see next to the bedroom, the bathroom wall, which you indicated was initially on Henry's bed. And that seems to be quite a logical conclusion to draw because we know that there were some spatter stains on that duvet if the duvet is opened, and there's also the void pattern on Henry from Adar's bed. Right. Now, you ended off your second report, Triple D2, with a statement saying that the possibility of staging cannot be excluded. You remember that statement that you made?
That's correct.
His Lordship actually asked you what you mean by staging. You indicated according that simply means that a crime scene either to turn attention away from him or herself or to reflect attention on somebody else.
That's correct.
Right. I cannot possibility of staging, and let's just not beat around the bush. The suggestion clearly is that my client manipulated the crime scene. That's what we're talking about, not so. There are a number of aspects that I want to go through. We'll take them one by one, and I want to my client from the word go, from day one, told the police that he saw his brother being attacked on his bed. Correct?
That's correct.
He maintained that version. In fact, he also repeated in his pre-explanation.
That's correct. Yes.
Now, can you think of any way in which moving his brother off the bed and placing him somehow where we did eventually found him would corroborate that version?
But I can't testify about the state of mind of the person during that incident, or why the purpose, why the body was moved. So I can't actually comment on that, my lord.
Well, I want to put it to you, Captain, just thinking about it logically, it'd be very difficult to think of a logical reason why, how such a move corroborates this version. You will agree with that? Yes. It will be, with respect, a fairly illogical step to take. Doing something that actually contradicts what he's saying, in fact. Right. Now, secondly, your marks, blood marks, exhibit numbers B33. Those were the marks that were found, just refresh our memory. On the base part of the,
That's correct.
and of bloody fingers that touch those areas on a few spaces, correct?
That's correct, yes.
We also know that that blood belonged to Rudy van Breda.
That's correct.
And we also know that Rudy van Breda's hands covered in blood and probably his own blood.
That's correct.
Now, if Rudy van Breda was moved off his bed, that suggests clearly that he was either incapacitated or dead at the time.
That's correct.
How would you go about, first of all, and more importantly, why would somebody move a dead or incapacitated off the bed and then push a bloody hand of that person against the sides of the bed? Let's start with the how would you do that?
Well, first of all, my lord, even though the fingertips contains the DNA from the dog, doesn't mean that it's actually his hand that actually touched it. His hand covered with blood that actually made the contact while he was busy with Rudy van Breda on the floor.
You're absolutely correct, but of course, this being a criminal matter in the state, bears the onus of proving beyond reason about what happened. I'm not entirely sure how a even further possibility would assist him. And I'll tell you what I'm saying. If he was not incapacitated or dead, it would have been possible for him to have left those marks there.
If he was not dead, yes.
Yes, if he was not dead incapacitated, he could have made it himself.
Absolutely.
Right. Then the final resting position of Rudy. He correct?
That's correct.
But we also know that he's, in all probability, contact with the bedroom wall bordering the bathroom. Recall that.
That's correct.
So that means that at some stage while he was on the floor, his head must have pushed on two occasions. We also know electrical outlet, his head must have been lifted around about in the vicinity between 28 and 40 centimeters.
That's correct.
His head must have been facing that way, And that is the opposite way in which he was found.
Okay.
So again, one has to ask, that would mean that if somebody moved him in that way, at that point, somehow the person and then would have turned him around and left him where he was. Again, you would surely agree with me, if he was not incapacitated or dead, he could have caused those marks against the wall himself.
Possibility, yes.
Now, am I correct in saying that, in your view, it was only Rudy's position of the 4 victims that was manipulated, or possibly manipulated? I beg your pardon, I'm not saying you say did, it was possibly manipulated.
That's correct.
Again, can you think of any reason, what benefit could my client have derived by only changing the position of the one? And you examined the scene, and I invite you to tell the court if you can think of it.
My Lord, now I'm not the behavior analyst, so I can't actually tell why the person was moved. Opinion-wise, if you look at the image sustained from the ground, it's just my opinion. There was a lot of anger towards Rudy from the ground. There's a lot of injuries inflicted to him, and the person could have been angry at him and still put out that anger towards him by dragging and carrying him around and shoving him around in the room. That's a possibility.
Sure. But then of course, with the captain with respect, you're then forgetting about your suggestion that my client was deliberately staging the scene there. You now postulating a different possible motive, that is out of anger.
That is a possibility. I don't know why, the reason why Rudy from the Dal was moved. You don't know.
But with respect, my question to you was, can you think of a reason why he would only stage his brother's position as opposed to the other thing? Not why he would be...
I don't think, Rudy from the Dal was moved to form part of the staging process. In my opinion, I think I could testify about it yesterday. I think that I only mentioned the axe, the throwing of the axe being part of the staging process.
Okay, well, Phyllis, it's good you did say that. So, I apologize for them. Then can be placed on record, you're not suggesting that the position of Rudy van der Daal has anything to do with staging, or the duvet that was found next to him has anything to do with staging?
No, not at all.
Okay, well then we can move on very fast. You would also recall that we referred, and I referred you to the presence of an electrical cord that was running underneath Rudy van der Daal's body when he was found.
That's correct.
Now again, all things being equal, if that electrical cord was underneath his body when he was dragged, surely that electrical cord with the weight of the incapacitated person on top of it would have left a very clear and distinct drag mark through that blood. And that we don't find that, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
You agree with that statement? Then, perhaps more importantly, it was your view, if I understood you correctly, that Rudy van der Daal bled for a fair amount of time whilst he was still on his bed.
That's correct.
You came to that conclusion, if I understand you correctly, based on at least 2 aspects. Number 1, the amount of blood obviously we saw there, although that was not all tested, we don't know, but on the probability there must have been either his blood or his father's blood. Correct. And secondly, you also said if one had regard to the dried flow patterns of the blood on his face when he was found, that suggested at some stage his head was in a slightly raised position, suggesting sleeping on a pillow when he started bleeding.
That's correct.
Right. So we know he bled on the bed for a period of time. But we also know, is it not correct, Captain, that with reference to Exhibit B20, that is the fairly big amount, pool of blood with the complex pattern that you referred to that was on the floor, that he also must have bled there for a considerable period of time and quite profusely there as well.
And Lord, as you testified yesterday, and it also mentioned that Rudy van Gaal was at one stage on his back on the floor. And we agreed to that. So if you lie on your back, your wounds are at the lowest part of your body, the lowest part, close to it. So you will have gravity flow. So it's a possibility there that due to gravity flow, that blood could have been created as well.
Respect, Captain, you're not doing the classic thing which is anticipating my next question. I simply asked you, is it correct that while he was there on the floor, being there, he created a huge pool of blood?
That's good.
Now I'm getting to the question that you almost now answered. One of two possibilities. He could still have been bleeding there, actively bleeding.
That's correct.
You can't exclude that.
That's good.
If he was still actively bleeding there, he must have been alive still. Because dead people don't bleed.
That's correct.
Then,
I do agree with that, but if you look at Henry's, at the Rudy van Gaal, there is specific flow patterns that was created and drive. If he was moving on his own, still with his heart beating and there was circulation, why would I observe any other flow patterns on his head that would show any deviation or any other flow patterns created? That would show me any indication that he was at some stage violently active on the ground scene and busy actually moving around. Because that is absent.
okay, let's examine it if you want to go there. First of all, the flow patterns you're referring to is not on his entire head, sure, you're talking about his face.
So from the wound down to his face.
Yes. Right. Now, if he was dragged around, what happened to those flow patterns then?
No, for me, those flow patterns were already dry. And
Let's accept that. Are you suggesting that even if Rudy van Gaal laid on the bed and was on the bed and bled there for some time, enough time for the blood on his face to start drying, you would expect fresh blood flow?
But I'm talking about he was already passed away.
All right.
He was there, and then he was moved. Again.
All right. Now, I take it that you were, I understand you were given a copy of Exhibit QQ, that is the report by the pathologist, Dr. Reggie Perumal, that we intend to call, and that was put to Dr. Anthony.
That's quick, I've got it.
Right. And you clearly have seen what Dr. Perumal states there, that in his view as a medical expert, none of the injuries that Rudy van Gaal sustained would have necessarily either incapacitated him or killed him. That it is quite possible that he could have lived for as long as 2 hours, approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes later, when my client heard him making gurgling sounds in the bathroom, in the bedroom. Now I take it you are not going to say that you are a medical expert that can dispute that evidence of Dr. Bennett.
I do have questions.
Sorry?
I do have some comments. If the court will allow me to do something.
Sure.
Anything towards pathology. I'm not an expert in pathology, so I'm not questioning anything towards pathology at all. I just want to ask knowledge whether or not any blood stain pattern analysis also.
Yes.
Okay. So, refer to that exhibit QQ. On the floor, wall, and side of of them mention any of the 2.4.
Yes?
At 2.4, okay. Now I made a comment there that said, only requested comments on blood pattern on the floor. What was requested towards the face of the contact with regards to the flow patterns.
Is your question that I understand that you want to know whether Dr. Perry was
towards the flow pattern? Let me explain like this. Will have significant for them move prior to his death or after his death. From bleeding wounds tells us about the movement of the victim. About that specific flow pattern. Then the other point.
Can I just then please not the question that I wanted to
Please
put you.
let the witness, he's not finished answering you.
He was actually allowed me because I was still reading my question. Your question, you have a question. Is your question, you want to know whether Dr. Peremol was asked to comment on the specific flow patterns on Rudy's face?
That's correct.
And you would want him to comment on that?
That's correct.
All right, let me just make a note of that. Right, the second one.
Okay, there was a significant amount of blood on the bed and the floor. The amount of blood observed on the bed, will be from Breda, as stated in his report, was initially a self-release. Could the blood volume observed on the bed cause the death of Rudy from Breda due to contamination, taking in consideration the surface of the bed and the area covered with blood?
I beg your pardon, where are you reading again?
No, this is my comment now.
All right, your comment on what, Captain?
On his 6.1.
All right, 6.1.
The bed and the floor. So now I'm asking, the amount of blood observed on the bed, could that have caused the death of Rudy from Breda?
That Dr. Peremol says no.
On what basis has he given?
No, Captain, you are in the unfortunate position that you're the witness, you have to answer the question. The expert.
He wants the witness to comment on the doctor's report, but the witness has appears certain information that he needs before he can comment on the doctor's report.
Just comment on that.
Can I continue? Yes. Captain? Any further questions? Sorry.
You're asking any other questions.
No, but he has a first, he said the first comments, comments on the report.
I don't know whether it's appropriate, but at 6.6 weeks, it would have taken 2 hours, 40 minutes to find a result in death. Is there is that opinion based on scientific research, or is it an educated guess, or?
Captain, and then just take this one step further. You also know that Dr. Anthony testified. Now, this entire report, that is the pathologist of the state who testified. I handed this entire report to her as well before she came to testify. She was asked specifically from paragraph 6.1 and further to comment. And we obviously haven't got the transcribed version, but I've got the notes from my attorney and a clerk who report at the time. Paragraph 6.1, the only comment that Dr. Anthony had was that the criticism by Dr. Peremol that she should have, the cause of death should have been more accurately concluded as incised wounds of the scalp and incised fracture of the skull. She said she thought she accurately described the cause of death in the report, but with the remainder of paragraph 1, she agreed, 6.1 she agreed. Then, with regards to paragraph 6.2, she said that there was nothing in paragraph 6.2 that she does not agree with. Then with regards to paragraph 6.3 of the report, she indicated and said she agrees with paragraph 6.3 as well. With particular reference to the fact that the injury to his left occipital lobe would have probably left him, that would have been associated with blindness in the one eye. Then in paragraph 6.4, I asked her about that and said she has no disagreement with the content, paragraph 6.4. Then with paragraph 6.5, she said, look, I'm not a blood spatter expert. She can't comment on any blood spatter observations insofar as that paragraph deals with that. But she does say that she cannot dispute, certainly not dispute the time period of the possible life of Mr. Again, she said it is quite possible that he could still live for 2 hours and 40 minutes. What we do have here, as far as the defense is concerned, is a common cause issue between Dr. Anthony and Dr. Perrimore about the contents of the eye. I've given it back to you now. You are not going to still suggest that these 2 doctors are now mistaken with regards to what they're saying with their medical opinion?
No, but I just want to, I've done a couple of crimes since during my career in the police. I mean, I've done quite a few cases where there was less blood where people died. My thing is now is, can we exclude the fact that Rudy van Gaal could have died in the day?
Okay, but surely you're not suggesting that the amount of blood is necessarily linked blunt trauma to the head and dies and does not bleed at all.
No, I'm just stating that, but can
I also want to put it to you, Captain, that we intend calling a neurosurgeon who had regard to Dr. Perrimore's report, Exhibit Q, and also agrees with what he's saying. This again. Can you exclude the possibility that Rudy would still have been alive for 2 hours and 40 minutes after his activity as set out in QQ?
no.
And by that I mean, and just to finish this point, I know we're almost done there. Dr. Anthony agreed that he could have been capable of physical.
My lord, I'm sorry. The doctors never went that far. Both Dr. Anthony was quite at pains to say he would have been able to move whilst on the bed, but with limited mobility, and similar on the floor. With regard to any of
Lord, now reading to the record the entire contents of paragraph 6. This is what the doctor agreed with.
My
She
lord,
read, with respect, I'm busy blessing the court. I'm busy, I put it to the doctor, she had time to consider it. I asked her whether she had agreed with without any comments on it. And those paragraphs actually state, in paragraph 6.5 for example, states the multiple smear patterns indicate that he has made significant movement on the floor. Not all movement appears to be purposeful. On the floor, he may have tried to grab onto something and pull the duvet. Mattress. The There are multiple hand movements onto the liquid blood on the floor. The fairly pattern on the floor, blood on the ball is likely to be Rudy's head being on the wall of the stage before the blood was congealed and coagulated, as there is still a flow aided by gravity, etc. That is what the doctor agrees with this thing. This is not an unfair.
When I re-examined Dr. Anthony, because of the fact that Dr. Perumal went into blood and said, I'm not comfortable to give comment on blood stain analysis because I have no experience in that field. I asked her specifically with regard to paragraph 6.5 and 6.6, Doctor, you've said you agreed. What of those two paragraphs specifically do you agree with? And she said specifically in re-examination, just the first sentence of each paragraph. I do agree that whilst he was on the bed, and similar on the floor. That is the only aspect that she agreed with Manor.
Unfortunately, foreseen the possibility that Dr. Perumal not this in any event. Is for the medical practitioner to say that somebody would still have been capable of a physical activity like putting down the baby. That is something that's a medical opinion being expressed, and the doctor. You don't exclude the possibility.
On his head. The flow patterns, the blood stain made by Dr. Perumal. And I do not agree with that, because the blood stain pattern is inconsistent. The version presented by Dr. Perumal is inconsistent on the head of Rudy van Breda. Blood stain protective.
This on Monday again.
Okay, and just ask this one aspect of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Seem to have early on possibility that Rudy could still.
Yes, I do accept it, yes.
My expert is not available.
But if you